One of us has made a gross error.
I think this situation absolutely requires a really futile and stupid gesture be done on somebody's part.
We're just the guys to do it.
The fun has just begun.
Yes, it is. Welcome back to That Nerd Show 2.0 for our very second show. And I like to throw the word very in there just to emphasize how important the show is. But we are back for another week, That Nerd Show 2.0. I'm one of your hosts, Marcus Blake, and with me as always is Brendan.
I'm just some guy.
Just some guy. And the very first thing that we want to do to kick this show off right is we want to salute all the nerd fathers out there who instilled a love of sci-fi, comic books, horror, everything nerdy to their sons and their daughters. And Brendan and I both have that. Yes.
Especially that guy who dressed up as Jar Jar Binks to scare his son at 3 o'clock in the morning so that his son would never like Jar Jar Binks. You, sir, are a fine individual.
That is called dedication. Little warped, but still dedicated. And we'll get to some more Father's Day stuff a little bit later. We do have a little segment about the best and the worst nerd fathers in our universe. But before we get to that, lots of things to talk about. Another exciting week in nerd news. And, of course, we've got TV show reviews and movie reviews. And then the later half of the show, we will be going over E3 coverage. All the stuff that we found out about games coming out this year, what we like, what we're looking forward to, and things that we definitely don't like. So there's lots of stuff about that. So video game nerds, if you don't want to listen to the rest of the show, come back at 6 p.m. because we got a lot to talk about then. But before we get to all the rest of it, it's time to do a little nerd news. So, also, to the person who emailed me asking what the quote was at the beginning of our new intro, you should be ashamed as a nerd. No, it's not really that bad. But, yes, it's a quote from Animal House. Thought I'd get that out of the way early.
After they've been put on double secret probation.
Yes, you are officially on double secret probation for not knowing that. Big announcement that before we get to our whole thing of nerd news, in celebrating the 40th anniversary of the movie Jaws, one of my all-time favorites, as many of you, they are re-releasing Jaws on the big screen. It's a Fathom event, so you can get tickets through Fathom, and there was a screening today and on Wednesday at participating AMC theaters. So definitely check out that in your local area and see if it's there. It's Jaws. I don't care how many times you've seen it. It's still worth a movie ticket to go see it on the big screen. The way it
Especially if you've never seen it on the big screen.
Oh, yeah.
You know, for all those people that were born in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, God help us. But, you know, you've never seen it on the big screen. We had the chance a couple of years back to see it at the Inwood Theater, which does a classic movie night, and it was just an awesome experience. So go do see that. You won't regret it. You will regret it if you don't. Promise me.
Right.
Coming from a guy who's missed out on 2 chances to see A New Hope and Empire and the Strikes Back in the theaters, once because I wasn't born yet, once because I was 18 months old, and then when they were re-released, I was in boot camp. So please do it for me.
And if you do go see it on Wednesday, there's no shame in bringing an inflatable shark to pass around the audience, as somebody did that night when we went to go see it. Made it great.
That was classy. I liked it.
So, very first interesting piece of news for all you Deadpool fans out there. It looks Rob Liefeld has out there with comicbook.com has compared Deadpool to a Quentin Tarantino movie. So after looking at some early footage and the way that they're doing everything, this action-packed comic book movie, I don't know whether that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, because I think Tarantino fans are split down the middle. You get people that really hate him and his style, and you get people that really love him. But you know, if it's kind of a Kill Bill type of motif with Deadpool, I would personally be okay with that, because Deadpool is just that interesting of a character.
as long as he's breaking the fourth wall and professing his love for chimichangas, I don't care.
Well, you kind of have to have that with Deadpool. I mean, that's a must. If you don't have that, then you've pretty much ruined Deadpool and obviously didn't do enough research in the comics.
Yeah, like you didn't read any book. Not just all of them, just any one book. So, all right, anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
Because I can
right.
go on about that forever. So.
Oh, yeah. And we'll have plenty to talk about when Deadpool comes out next year. So, all right, so this was very interesting. We've talked a lot about on this show that the heart of Star Trek is always in TV and that we need another TV series. Now, there's been talks about getting a fifth season of Enterprise for Netflix, which, you know, I think most Star Trek fans wouldn't be upset with, and that's a good home for it, as long as you can get everybody back for the show.
Yeah, which I don't think you can, but...
No, probably not. But, like I said, it's a nice idea. And, of course, you know, the Captain Worf series been in development and for a while, and it really hasn't gotten to the point of shooting a pilot or anything. But this particular news was very interesting. Paramount Pictures has acquired the domain name StarTrekBeyond.com and has invited a fan who previously owned the domain, to pitch an updated TV series to them. And they said they basically can announce that indeed an invitation to pitch Star Trek Uncharted at Paramount this summer. Michael Gummelt, whose former working title and website was Star Trek Beyond, said, "As far as I know, this is the first time a fan has been invited to pitch a Star Trek series. The premise of his work takes place decades after the missions of Captain Kirk and features a completely new crew and new Enterprise. Here's the basic gist of what he will be pitching. And for Star Trek fans out there, let's see if you like this idea. A mysterious signal is received from the Andromeda Galaxy, claiming to be from the creators of life in the Milky Way, and inviting us to come and meet them. A new space folding technology developed, that's what they call a new folding technology developed, a hyperwarp gate constructed to warp jump 2.5 million light years in the Andromeda Galaxy. Probes have returned successfully with data about Andromeda. A new Enterprise is built. It's the first ship to bear the name since the original Enterprise was destroyed in the Galactic War. The Enterprise is the first ship assigned to the new galaxy. Its mission to explore strange new world and, chart the Andromeda Galaxy. Yeah.
I have a lot of questions here because the Enterprise E was never destroyed in canon. So what are they talking about since the original Enterprise was destroyed in the Galactic War? And then on top of that, Star Trek is supposed to be very heavy in science on the science fiction side. So now you're talking about, we're going to fold space time, and fans are going to be really leery about this whole idea. And not only that, you just ripped off Mass Effect. One of the games we're going to talk about later on is Mass Effect 4, which is titled Mass Effect Andromeda. So, yeah, I'm really not digging this at all.
Well, this is what they're proposing. Nobody said the kid wasn't smoking pot playing Mass Effect 4 and thinking, hey, I've got a Star Trek idea. For me, I love the idea of any new series with a new crew and that we can, get attached to. There's lots of great potential for stories within the Star Trek universe. I'm not, as for the science part and talking about space folding and all that, it's science fiction, okay? Was it ever really clearly explained, the technology that pushed Voyager 75 years away and all of that, to where people could legitimately understand it? Not really. But I agree with you. If you're basically ripping off the premise of a video game, then yeah, you need this. This is where a team of writers comes in, and this is where you really need to rework the premises. A mysterious signal that you go in and explore, well, that's kind of up Star Trek's alley. I mean, of course, the first time I hear something about a mysterious signal, I'm automatically reverted back to Star Trek the Motion Picture. So, but it's a very cool idea that a fan gets to pitch, an idea for a new series. And even if this doesn't work out, I think Paramount should be open to that idea and should definitely take a look at things like the Battle of Axanar and those guys who are making that movie and say, well, maybe we can put some money behind it and really do a series, before Kirk, after Kirk, whatever. There's so many more stories that you can do. And let's face it, it's been over 10 years since we've had a Star Trek series. We need another Star Trek series, guys. I mean, especially.
But I don't want to just take any old one because it's a Star Trek series. I want them to do a good one.
Well, no. I mean, if you're really just going to put something out there to have another series, and because it's the 50th anniversary coming up next year, then you might as well greenlit, the Captain Worf series, which I think would be a fantastic idea. So, anyway, a little Star Trek news out there for you, and we'll see what happens with that. Okay, another thing, a Hawkgirl TV series, Hawkgirl, sorry, I think some of the listeners out there probably think I said Hot Girl, which she does look hot in the promo photo, but that's beside the point. Hawkgirl TV series is reportedly in development. It's in development at the CW, and I think what they're trying to do, it's developing a standalone series starring Cia Renee. It's unclear whether the series will take place or after the events of Legends of Tomorrow. But according to the report, the project is at the very early stages of development. CW hasn't decided whether they'll move forward with it, and we don't know about making the pilot or whether they'll bypass the pilot stage. There's just a lot. It's just in development. That's all we know.
So they've spun off Legends of Tomorrow from Flash and from Arrow, and then they're going to spin off Hot Girl from Legends of Tomorrow. Okay.
Hey.
All right. I didn't think they needed a TV show just for her, but sure, why not?
You know what? I'd rather have Hawk Girl than half the shit they have on the CW. I mean, that's true. If she's the replacement for Beauty and the Beast, I'm all for it. But yeah, maybe the CW is just for DC Comics. That's the home for TV series and stuff.
That's fine. I just think there are other female characters. If they're wanting to, kind of have another female character outside of Supergirl, I just think there are other ones out there. And since Hawkgirl's already going to be on Legends of Tomorrow, I just thought there was other places they could go. But all right, if they want to do that, that's cool. I'll get behind it. But
I will say this: if this is the direction you're going, and Hawkgirl is not really widely known to comic book fans, I mean only the hardcore fans, then why are you passing up on Constantine? Why are we not bringing this to the CW where it kind of belongs with everything else, with its dark tone? I'm sorry. I'm still at a loss why people are passing up on this series. Was it a budget thing? Did it cost too much? So, yes, this is great, and I'm sure you have the time slots and whatnot, but if you're going to do this before you do Constantine, shame on you, CW. I'm going to call you out on that. That's right. I'm going to just call you out, and so is Samuel L. Jackson.
One of us has made a gross error.
Saying. So we'll see what happens with that. All right, moving right along into more nerd news. And we do want to remind listeners out there that throughout the show, if you'd like to comment on something and call in real quick, our call-in number is 347-989-1732. But we will not be taking calls from all the Hitler youth out there who just want to scream ridiculous stuff. So, sorry about that. You'll have to go to other shows and do that. All right. Moving right along. Okay, so apparently Hellboy 3 is happening, according to Ron Perlman.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I am good with that. I don't know how true it is. I know he really wants to do it, but he basically said when...
My only question is Guillermo del Toro involved? Because you kind of can't have one without the other. So.
I know. It's like love and marriage. When and if the film gets off the ground, according to Perlman, Hellboy 3 will blow your mind, according to him, and he's been particularly aggressive about getting the project moving of late. He's tweeted his support. He says the conversation quickly spun out of his hands and became something bigger than anticipated, and the discussion has now overtaken rather than overtaking the discussion, and here I am in Marty Color working on my suntan, and people are still asking about Hellboy 3. But, you know, again, there's no questions of whether Guillermo del Toro will be back in the director's chair. According to Ron Perlman, who got on Twitter, this is what's happening. So here's what I say to this. This does fall into the rumor mill. This isn't like confirmed news or anything like that. And we do talk about rumors and comment on them. I agree with Ron Perlman on this. I think you need a Hellboy 3. I think it's a great project for him to do after Sons of Anarchy, and I don't even know what else he's working on right now. Hellboy is you should round out with a trilogy. But if you don't get Del Toro back for it as well, then you don't need to be doing a Hellboy 3. So it's like having a Ghostbusters not written by Harold Ramis. Just saying.
Yeah. People got on me because they're like, you just don't want to see an all-girl cast. No, I don't want to see anybody cast, period. It's, look, no Ramis, no Reitman, no Murray, no movie. Very simple. I have Ghostbusters 1 and 2. I have them on Blu-ray. We've got the complete Ghostbusters animated collection. I have all the Ghostbusters I ever need in my life. When they recast it with all the guys, the year after they recast it with all the girls, guess what? Not watching that one either.
Look, we're nerds. We like what we like, and there's certain ways to do movies, okay? And it's with the right cast. You can't just change the cast halfway and expect people to like it. No, it sucks. So. And
look, I respect Dan Aykroyd a great deal for coming out and saying the classy thing that he thinks the script hits all the right notes and all that. And that's wonderful for Dan Aykroyd to do. I think, he could go completely the other direction, and he could just be, snotty about it. And, one of his friends is dead, and the other friend hadn't talked to him in 30 years, and he could have just been a complete jerk about it and said, go to hell and all that crap. But he didn't. And so that's to his credit. I still think the movie's going to suck, but, hey.
Exactly. Ron Perlman, we hope that you get your wish on this one, because we will definitely be wanting to go see Hellboy 3 if it gets made. So, all right, some Spider-Man news, and there's a two-part thing in this, two parts of this Spider-Man news. The first one is Spider-Man creative team Brian Michael Bendis and Sarah Pacelli will launch Spider-Man, a new monthly title set to launch following the events of the Secret Wars and starring Miles Morales, according to the New York Daily News. So many kids of color, when they were playing superheroes, blah, 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 wanted to see one of color and everything. And they're also saying that our message, it has to be that Spider-Man, it doesn't need to be Spider-Man with an asterisk, it's the real Spider-Man for kids of color. But anyway, apparently not only with comic books and stuff, they are planning the Miles Morales Spider-Man to appear along with the other Spider-Man in Marvel films later on down the road. So we've known about Miles Morales for a while as a Spider-Man, but moving forward, and I think that there's also a new animated series in development too, according to Marvel and everybody. Anyway, the other part of the news along with that is continuing more with the Sony hack and things that have come out. According to emails that were hacked, they have basically said that, Peter Parker has to be white and a youth, which of course started some racist bullshit among people. Like there isn't any other, we don't have enough in dealing with race and, news items and political issues. Look,
Peter Parker's a white character. He has been for 60 years. They created a new character, Miles Morales, because they realized they needed some more diversity. But that doesn't mean you go and change the character that already exists. We're talking to you, Josh Trank. Mr. My Fantastic Four movie is so bad that I got fired from Star Wars before it was even released. So, yeah, you just don't go and arbitrarily change shit for the sake of arbitrarily changing shit. Now, honestly, I don't really even understand this one because, and I've brought this up before. When I was growing up and I was reading things, I naturally gravitated toward Daredevil because he's an Irish Catholic superhero. And I'm an Irish Catholic kid. Now, they created Daredevil because they realized there was that market because of the Kennedy assassination and a whole bunch of other things that were going on in the 60s. So, look, there's a market. There's absolutely a market for superheroes from different ethnic and racial backgrounds. And that's great. I love it. Create characters don't arbitrarily change a character just to satisfy a market. Create a character from that market. Like, honestly, why do you think that Black Panther is one of the most revered superheroes? Because they went out and they realized that there was a shortage of black superheroes, and they created one who is from Africa, who's an African royalty, African king, who cares about the continent, who takes care of his people. I mean, he's a paragon. He's the African Superman, essentially, in that sense. He's not all powerful like Superman, but you guys know how I feel about that. So, create characters for those markets. Give those people a reason to actually identify with them. Don't just randomly change a guy who's been white for 50 years to black or Asian or Hispanic or whatever, because now that demographic really has no other reason to identify with that character. You just arbitrarily changed them to satisfy. I mean, that's got to be very shallow to the people who you're trying to reach out to.
Yeah,
and then you're pissing off everybody else.
You're essentially making it a race issue by creating something to be more sensitive. Do you think that African American fans can't identify with or are going to hate a white geeky Peter Parker? Or the fact that you can't have more than one Spider-Man with the same powers and all that? Okay, I mean, for God's sake, the Supergirl pilot has a athletic, tall, good-looking, Jimmy Olsen, when in fact he's always been a white geeky kid. Okay, we don't need to be that sensitive. White people, we like the problem. Okay, we can like things that are designated for an African American crowd. I like Tyler Perry and Medea, always have. I think it's funny. I like rhythm and blues and old music and stuff like that. Quit using comic book characters to divide society. Okay?
I just think just make characters that are going to, just don't make arbitrary changes. Make characters that are actually going to identify and service the market you're going after.
If you really have... Well, here's the thing. If you really have a problem and you need a character to be able to identify with a certain ethnic group, create a new superhero. Don't reinvent one that's always been.
And honestly, DC's missed out on an easy in there for years because Robin is a title. Why haven't we had a black Robin or a Hispanic Robin? Why hasn't Batman rescued a underprivileged kid from the many, many, many bad neighborhoods of Gotham, given him an awesome life in Wayne Manor? Maybe his parents were shot in a drive-by by the Penguins thugs. Who knows? Yeah, it's possible.
Right.
So why hasn't Bruce Wayne done that?
Well, we're making too much of an issue out of this to begin with. I'm trying to be too sensitive. It's like the whole PC argument, and now it goes over to comic books. Just stop it, okay? You don't need to do that.
Now I have to watch PCU again, damn it. All right.
Yeah, great little nostalgic movie about 20 years old. One of Jeremy Piven's finest. And David Spade was actually really good in it. So anyway, moving right along with some other news items, and then we'll get to movie reviews. Hugh Jackman has been confirmed to appear in X-Men Apocalypse. So I think that's probably a given, but it hasn't actually been confirmed, but now it has. So, and as we all know, he will be doing one more solo movie as Wolverine, and that will be the final time he plays that character. So, okay. Indiana Jones 5, according to Disney, has been slated for 2018. We still don't know who's playing Indy. It hasn't been confirmed whether Chris Pratt is doing it, and according to him, he's gotten one phone call and no confirmation, and that's it. So, but I'm going to make one comment on this. I understand about trying to make an Indiana Jones 5. You can't really bring Harrison Ford back in as Indy. He pretty much has to be like the father figure of his son or whatever in this one. But if you're really not going to be able to get it all in development and done by 2018, hey, I have another movie that you can bring back and actually do. Why did we scrap Tron 3? Just saying.
Yeah.
All right. Mel Brooks has confirmed that there is a sequel to Spaceballs in development. So it is the era of sequels. Let's make a sequel of a movie that was made 25 years ago. Yay! We'll see it. It's Mel Brooks. But again, this goes back into casting. If you're not going to have... If you don't get Rick Moranis to play Dark Helmet in this film, and you can't get him out of retirement, don't bother, Mel. Just don't bother.
Yeah. You can't. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't do Spaceballs without Rick Moranis. And, Rick Moranis might actually do it for that, too.
Right.
Because his kids... I mean, the whole reason why Rick Moranis, for those who don't know, the whole reason why he left Hollywood is because his wife died of cancer, and so he decided to leave Hollywood to be almost stay-at-home dad, which is, very honorable and a pretty awesome thing to do when you think about it. Because he could have just hired a nanny. I mean, he's got the money. So the fact that he gave that up is pretty awesome. But, I mean, his kids now are of college age. So if he wanted to go back and do Spaceballs, there's nothing stopping him except for his desire not to do it.
Right. Well, you better get the cast back. That's all I'm saying. And yes, it will. Again, it's very hard to do it with John Candy and Joan Rivers both having been, or have died. But I don't want to see Spaceballs 2 with a whole new round. If that's the route you're going to have to go just to do a sequel, come on, Mel Brooks, you can come up with something else to spoof.
I could see him doing it without Daphne Zuniga because she hasn't been in Hollywood forever either. But as long as he got Bill Pullman and Rick Moranis, you could work the rest of the movie around it.
Honestly, though, if you can't really do it right, I'd rather see Mel Brooks spoof like the Twilight movies or something. I'd rather see him do something like that than the stupid Wayans brothers. No offense, I'm sure you guys are nice guys, but scary movie and crap like that, you're just not that funny, in my opinion. Okay. Other news. So everybody has already, I hope everybody knows this by now. If not, we're going to tell you that there is a fifth Bourne Identity movie, and Matt Damon is coming back to reprise his role, and they got Paul Greengrass back to be the director. That was the only way Matt Damon was actually going to come back and be Jason Bourne again. There was also confirmed this week that Julia Stiles will be returning as the CIA agent Nikki, who I guess... and the third one kind of had a thing for him, and she had to go and disappear. So anyway, that's happening. But here's a really cool thing. Viggo Mortensen has been eyed to play the villain. And for those of you that don't think he can actually play a really good villain, go watch Eastern Promises. Great movie. So
I haven't seen it. I'll take your word for it.
Well, it's really, really good. And, great cast. So, in fact, I should check to see if that's on Netflix, because that would be a good recommendation of what you should be streaming. And this is the final piece of news item. Some of you may not necessarily remember him as an actor and everything, but it's worth mentioning. Rick Ducommun passed away this week. Now, if you don't remember who he was, everybody, the Burbs with Tom Hanks, he was the really annoying neighbor. My mind just went blank on the old veteran. I can't remember the actor's name now. But anyway, he played the really annoying one that had the the big theory about the Klopax being evil and stuff like that. And of course, he was in movies like Groundhog Day and The Last Boy Scout. Just really kind of a funny, off-the-wall character, side character in a lot of movies. But The Burbs is probably the biggest one that he ever really did. And The Burbs is just a classic from the 80s. So, passed away this week. I'm very sad. And in that, in honor of him, go watch The Burbs. It is on Netflix. I know, because I pulled it out the other day when I heard the news. So, all right. That is your new nerd news for the week. Your big items.
Well, I got one little other thing in there.
Okay.
Just because I think it's funny and it's one remake I actually think could work. Apparently, Vin Diesel is going to play Kojak.
Yes. There was a little blurb about that. You're right. I totally forgot that off our rundown. So,
and
but
I
they hired a
think
new
that
writer
could work.
this week.
Yeah, and he looks like Telly Savalas, so I think that actually could work.
It's very hard to try and do something like that, but I think if there is one person in Hollywood that could pull it off and have the swagger and everything, and if you think that Vin Diesel doesn't have a range as an actor and can't pull off different kinds of characters other than, Toretto and the Fast and Furious movies, Find Me Guilty is one of the best movies he ever did, playing Jackie something or other who was on trial with the mob and decided to represent himself. The movie came out about 10 years ago, and he was just absolutely hilarious in it. So, yeah, I agree. But, hey, it all comes down to the lollipops and Who Loves You, Baby.
Yep.
Okay, that's your nerd news this week. We're going to, before we get to movie reviews, I'd like to take a moment and say I think we actually have a reverse this week's sign of the apocalypse. For the first time ever, this week's sign of the apocalypse has actually been reversed. And here's why. So it was confirmed this week that although Channing Tatum will be Gambit, he will not be playing Gambit in the X-Men Apocalypse movie. That they are going straight to a standalone Gambit movie that nobody wants to see. But he will not ruin X-Men Apocalypse. So therefore,
Yay!
I know. See, I heard that.
One might even say the apocalypse has been averted.
I know. I don't know what to do. This has never happened before on our show. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
This is ridiculous.
Let's just hope that they decide that it's better just to scrap the Gambit movie altogether. Oh,
well,
I'd rather
actually,
not
they can make
Gambit.
the Gambit movie. They want to throw their money away. That's fine. But, I mean, as soon as we heard he was going to be Gambit for X-Men Apocalypse, I mean, we have been very seriously discussing whether we should boycott the movie. Because we're just not going to do it. Yeah. Now we don't have to.
I'm not going to put myself through 2.5 hours of a potato trying to pull off
And now, Brendan, now is a good time to explain to our audience what a potatum is.
Okay, so, well, anyway, I've got to give credit. There's an IGN poster, and I don't have his username here, but I will give credit to this person. So basically, you have people on the internet with these memes. Somebody does something stupid, and they go, hey, I can count the potato. Okay, so you've got the count the potato plus the confused Kristen Stewart-esque look on Channing Tatum's face that's perpetually there. You have the potatum. And it can be used as a noun. Channing is the original potatum, or it can be used as a verb. Hey, bro, stop being such a potatum. So, it's versatile. It's fun. I like it. It's a new word. Should be in Webster's.
Yeah, and here's my funny story behind that this week. When you texted me that, of course I was dealing with a moronic customer who, I was just cursing this person's name for not understanding that my company has the best prices on business cards and, best quality and all that, but still just couldn't wrap his brain around that idea. And I actually got to call him a potatum because of your description. Someone who is so dumb like a potato and just has that confused face like Channing Tatum. And I was like, yes. And for me,
you don't understand. I was really excited when I read this. I was at work, and I was just excited to be at work anyway because I was unemployed for 7.5 months. But I'm sitting there and I'm going, I'm looking through and somebody says potato, and I just started dying. And I text Marcus and I'm like, I'm very excited. I learned a new word today.
I mean, we're at the age where we don't like, hey, I looked up a new word in the dictionary, and guess what I learned today? I mean, we're not teenagers anymore studying for the SATs. We're adults, but when we get to use this kind of word in the nerd universe, yes, it's magnificent. It's fantastic. It's what can I say?
Sweet.
Yeah. It just is. So, yes, if you're dumb and you just have that confused face, you're officially a potatum, and that's what we shall call you from now on. So, it's a good word to call my customers sometimes when they're being moronic, instead of what I'd like to call them, because potatum they won't really understand, and it's just me making fun of them without them totally getting it. So, fantastic. All right. Reverse this week's Sound of the Apocalypse. Let's get to some reviews. So we have one movie review this week, and if you'd like to read the full review on our website by Alex Moore, it is for the movie Dope. And, the big question is this movie dope? And it's just nice to be able to use that lingo again now 20 years later. It was so dope. Dope centers around 3 teenage kids in present time growing up in Inglewood, the kind of the ghetto neighborhood, predominantly black and Hispanic outside of Los Angeles. And these 3 kids in present times are absolutely fascinated with early 90s hip-hop culture. So, they're finding 2 Live Crew records and Young MC and dressing like in the early 90s. And, of course, they're geeky kids. They're smart kids. And it made it even better that the fact that the movie was narrated by Forrest Whitaker in the very opening line. Malcolm, whatever his last name was, Malcolm is a geek. It just says it right off the bat. And, of course, they have kind of a geeky punk rock band and all that. Well, the movie centers around having to deal, as the kids are preparing to go off to college, and Malcolm has a chance to go to Harvard, getting in the middle of a drug deal kind of gone bad, and a drug dealer putting in his backpack 2 keys of cocaine that he has to unload. And while I won't give it away for the movie, his college future is tied to the fact, in some weird way, of him having to unload this. And, of course, in present day, there's black websites where you can sell illegal shit, and the IPs don't get traced and stuff like that. And of course, he has all sorts of geeky friends that are into computers and stuff like that. And Zoe Kravitz plays the little hometown home girl. That's all fine. That he has a crush on, studying for her GED, and the movie was absolutely fantastic. For anybody that grew up in the 90s, if you are our age group, you're 36, 37, 38, you remember what it was like, growing up in the early part of the 90s and in high school, and the fashion and the music and all that, you will get all of these references, and you will understand why the movie is called Dope and why we get to, say things like the movie is so dope and things of that nature. But at the same time, it's really heartfelt in taking kind of a, political narrative about the fact of, there are smart kids from bad neighborhoods who do have a chance to go to Ivy League schools, but are put more through the ringer in doing their college applications and essays and stuff like that because, they're not white and privileged. But the misadventures, the dealing with the overprivileged people who think they're gangster, but living in a very nice house, and of course, dealing with other rappers, turned actors like Redman, who do kind of play drug thugs and everything, but with a very comical nature to it. The movie is lovable, coming of age, and again, for everybody that grew up in the 90s, just the nostalgia factor alone gives this movie an automatic 8 out of 10. So that's my quick review of it. You can read a little bit more about it from Alex Moore's review on it on our website. But if you're looking for a movie to check out, and you've already seen Jurassic World and there's nothing else, go see this. You will love it. So kids that are in college now probably won't get it as much, although they will find some things very humorous about it. But no, just the pop culture references from the 90s made it great. And it also made me feel old. But yes, that Nerd Show rates this movie 8 out of 10. Easy. So, all right. Brendan, tell us a little bit about Killjoys, new series on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, so Sci-Fi has been trying to get back to sci-fi. Amazing how that works. And they've been putting out some space shows. Killjoys is interesting. I don't think it blew me away for the first episode, but as pilots go, it set up some interesting groundwork, and I think there's room for it to grow, and it could do something. It's got potential. It revolves around bounty hunters. So if you're a huge fan of Boba Fett and Aurra Sing, and you like just bounty hunter style stuff, Cad Bane from Star Wars, this isn't. This is more of a Firefly-esque universe as far as technology goes, but it's very much centered around 3 bounty hunters that work together as a crew, and they're called reclamation agents, or the slang for them is killjoys, and they're licensed bounty hunters, and it's completely legal in the system and in this universe that they have set up. And the team is led by a woman who's got a very shadowy past, and they've hinted at it that she was trained to be probably less of a bounty hunter and more of an assassin. And you can tell they're setting it up to where her trainer did something that she couldn't, or made her do something that she couldn't justify. And so instead of being a killer, she decided to go be a bounty hunter, and they even make a big point of it in how she doesn't take level 5 contracts in the show, or level 5 contracts are kill contracts. So and then this guy comes back into her life in the show who trained her, and so there's a lot of threads to pull on there. She's got 2 partners. One's played by Aaron Ashmore, who was Iceman in the X-Men movies. More recently, he was on The Following with Kevin Bacon. And he does a good job. He's kind of the tech expert, but he can also throw down a little bit. And then his brother, who they save in the first episode, is kind of an ex-soldier, and he provides the muscle. So there's a lot going on in the show. The set pieces are gorgeous. The effects are fairly good. Like I said, the universe feels very Firefly-esque to me. So while not a home run on the first show, definitely a solid double to the gap. I'll be back for next week and see how it develops.
You're throwing out baseball references to some of our nerds out there. You just lost half our audience.
That's all right. Look, all right. I'll give it if I got to give it a grade out of 10, I'll give it a solid 7. It was good. It was above average. It wasn't great, but it was good. And I think, like I said, there's a lot of potential to build off of it. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, the Sci-Fi Channel is making a huge, huge push right now for, a lot of original programming, and I think they are, in some ways, trying to capture the magic from some old shows like Firefly and Farscape. Dark Matter. It's funny you mentioned kind of a Firefly-esque show. Dark Matter very kind of has that feeling too, but also I think a little bit more Farscape. I do honestly think that's their answer of replacing Farscape. After 2 episodes of Dark Matter, I can tell you right now I am hooked. I will continue to watch it. I love, the idea of what they're doing. The show centers around people coming out of stasis on this spaceship and not knowing who they are, okay, and immediately not trusting each other. And, of course, you throw in an android in there whose, default protocol is to kill everybody until you have to shut it off. But these people start discovering who they are when they start discovering by instinct their abilities, like how to pilot a ship, weapons expert, things like that, or I'm a natural leader. While I won't give it away, by the end of the first episode, these people finally do realize who they really are, even though they can't remember. So you do get this Bourne Identity motif to it, and it's, not what you think. What I could tell, I'm glad we're doing the review now, because if we had waited just to do after the first week, I wouldn't have been able to tell you a little bit more, because the first 2 episodes should have been just a 2-hour, it really should have been a 2-hour pilot. You have a very clear halfway point in these characters at the very end of episode 1 discovering who they are and stuff. But, they're a band of characters thrown on a ship together who kind of have to learn how to live with one another and decide, after the first 2 episodes, are we going to stay together? Do we go someplace? So, yeah, I mean, it's very much like Farscape in a lot of ways. I think there's a lot of potential for dark matter, and, it's same kind of universe. It looks like it's something that's been set 600 years from today, and, there's more worlds and terraforming and whatnot, and you haven't really come across, other species, except, androids and stuff. And the woman who plays the android does a very good job. It looks like to me that she emulated a lot of Michael Fassbender from Prometheus, who he was actually one of the bright spots of that movie. He did a very, very good job. So I would give Dark Matter a good solid 7. So to start out with, I hope it definitely gets better, because the cast, seems pretty well, and it's not anybody that you would really recognize. But I also think Dark Matter might be a Canadian show. I don't know that for sure, and we'll look that up and find that out for you, or you can Google it yourself. So definitely has a lot of potential, and I'm glad to see the Sci-Fi Channel bringing back a lot of original programming. Some things fall short. Some things turn out to be really good. It's always hit and miss. But the Sci-Fi Channel should definitely keep pushing the envelope and trying to bring that original programming. Had a fan ask us one time if we ever watched Dominion, and nobody really around here does. I tried a couple of episodes last year and just couldn't get into it. Nothing to me appealed about it, didn't work. So, but I guess we're going to be sticking with Dark Matter and Killjoys and see what happens in the first season. So,
yep.
Okay, one more quick review. Actually, 2 more, and we'll do this quick. Humans, which is we've already seen the pilot set to premiere on AMC next week. It centers around a world where it's very much like I, Robot by Centennial Man. You definitely are living in a Asimov type of world with androids, but the whole premise of it is some of them actually develop artificial intelligence and consciousness and get past that singularity that always gets talked about in sci-fi novels when technology surpasses humanity. William Hurt plays kind of the mad scientist who created everything, but now is losing his memory, old, and trying to hold on to his kids, which are basically androids that he created. And of course, one of the laws is if anything goes haywire, you automatically have to destroy these androids and give the customer a new one. But there's also a group trying to find the ones with the singularity and either study them or kill them because they can't have them surpass humanity. Very interesting show. It's on AMC. And after watching the first episode, for the robot type stories, I'm going to go ahead and give it an 8 out of 10. I mean, just the philosophical points, everything that Asimov ever talked about in his robot stories is right there. And to have a series that will kind of address these issues a little bit more, I think will be good. And not in some weird, ridiculous Hollywood way that totally ruined, Asimov stuff. However, I, Robot was not a bad movie per se. Alan Tudyk did a really great job, and Will Smith was pretty good. but it just isn't the book.
Yeah.
Same with with Bicentennial Man.
It was before Will Smith had his personality-ectomy for After Earth.
Yeah. So, well, Hollywood can only do so much with a great book. So, all right.
Yeah.
We're going to comment on one thing, and then we're going to get to our Father's Day segment before we take a break. Star Wars Rebels, the season premiere of season 2.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. I mean, I got to tell you, there were some photos that leaked of Episode 7, like of Han and sitting in the Millennium Falcon, flying it with Rey and Finn and everything, and we got our first look of Luke Skywalker as the Obi-Wan type of Jedi and a leaked photo. That made me geek out a little bit. After watching Star Wars Rebels this morning, no. Oh my God. Just to hear James Earl Joyce's voice and the music.
Yes, absolutely. But here's my thing with this one. Everybody is concentrating on the return of James Earl Jones as Darth Vader, as they should. Don't get me wrong.
Right, absolutely.
I'm not begrudging anybody that. But I would like to give a huge shout-out to Sam Witwer, who voices the Emperor, because it was spot on. I thought I was listening to Ian McDiarmid from Episode 6, and I knew it was Sam Witwer. I knew previously that he had lobbied to get the role. For those of you who don't know who Sam Witwer is, he's in the American/Canadian version of Being Human. He was the voice of Starkiller in The Force Unleashed 1 and 2, which were fun games to throw stormtroopers around with awesome ragdoll physics, but had horrible Star Wars stories. And they were also really overpriced. So you can get them now cheap, and they're about worth what they actually should have been worth. He was also the voice of Darth Maul in the Clone Wars and did a fabulous job at that. So he lobbied Dave Filoni because he's been doing an impression of the Emperor for years.
Right.
And he lobbied Dave Filoni, who is the showrunner on both the Clone Wars and Rebels, to get the part, because the original person who had the part of the Emperor throughout most of the Clone Wars, Ian Abercrombie, passed away, and he did such a fantastic job. When he passed away, they brought in Tim Curry to be the voice of the Emperor. Tim Curry, for those of you who don't know, has since had a stroke and has done very little public work of any kind since then. That was 3 years ago. Sam Witwer lobbied to get the role, and Dave Filoni gave it to him, and he did. I mean, he only had a small part. We're expecting to see more of him throughout the season, but Sam, you did a freaking awesome job, and it got overshadowed because of James Earl Jones, and that's entirely understandable and completely appropriate. I just wanted to make sure Sam got some love. So.
Well, no, absolutely. That's what we're all about on this show, and if you weren't going to say it, I was going to say it, because Star Wars Rebels has surpassed every thought of what I thought it was going to be. Just not getting so far beyond just something as a kid show, and while I'm trying to get my 4-year-old nephew interested in it, okay, and he's not really quite there yet, it isn't just a kid show. It really crosses generations. It's the type of show that fathers can watch with their sons. With their children.
Honestly, the last 4 episodes of that show, so you got the hour premiere, and then the last, basically 66 minutes. So the last, 2 hours of Star Wars Rebels is probably the best Star Wars I've seen on a screen of any time, any type, since the original trilogy. I put it that highly.
It does. Well, there's a lot of great episodes of the Clone Wars, and you should definitely watch. Yeah, but no, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. It is definitely up there. Plus, here's the best part about Star Wars Rebels. It is really blending what happened at the end of Episode 3, because you know that there's still a few Jedi out there. Okay, I mean, not all of them died, and also the beginnings of the rebellion and what happens and how these mercenaries and groups, come together to really form the rebellion, okay? Just the very surprise, in this is a little bit of a spoiler, when Vader realizes that his apprentice is still alive, okay?
Yeah,
and she finally goes back. Yeah, and she passes out after seeing it in the Force. and she has to lie to, Kanan and stuff to
Ezra.
tell
Yeah.
Ezra about, do you know who it is? No. And you just see that look like, yeah, and you can't believe what has happened.
Right. And I love
Dramatic,
how I love how Vader referred to Anakin Skywalker in the third person.
Right.
Because he's not that person anymore. He said the
Right.
apprentice of Anakin Skywalker still lives. And, she may lead us to other Jedi, and like Kenobi. So I was just like, okay, when he said like Kenobi, I kind of squeaked a little bit.
Well, there was all this talk about having a Star Wars TV show for years, an actual live action.
They couldn't do it because it's too expensive.
Right. So that's what Star Wars Rebels is. You've done what you needed to do for in between and continuing the story a little bit and bridging the gap, okay, between Episode 3 and Episode 4 and the beginnings of the Rebellion, and introducing characters and also bringing in things like the Inquisitors. And so, yes, very well done on this first episode. Vader looks just as menacing
as always,
and to have his theme played, which so I'm giving this first episode 10 out of a perfect 10. You could not have made it any better.
I agree, but just 2 quick points before. I know we got to move on, but number one, I loved Kanan's actual common sense reaction to when Vader lifts the AT-ST off of himself, and Ezra says, "If that doesn't kill him, what will?" Kanan just says, "Not us. Run." It's like perfect response.
Right.
That is what fight or flight is for. Flight 1, that was the correct response. And then there was one other spot in the episode. I can't remember it now. I got too excited over the Vader. But the other thing is it's nice to see Lando in an episode again, too. So, as kudos to them treating Billy D. Williams right. So
right. Well, you know what? Even if he'll never end up in the new trilogy or whatever, having some adventures with Lando in Star Wars Rebels, absolutely perfect for Billy D. Williams with his health problems. Yeah. So, and
there are rumors now he'll show up in Episode 8, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, so real quick, we're going to get to our actually, we'll do this towards the end of the show. We'll save our cosplayer of the week towards the end of the show. But we wanted to do a Father's Day segment, and we're going to run a little over the halfway point, but just bear with us. We will get to E3 news and Roundup. So there are good nerd fathers and there are bad nerd fathers, okay? The guys that we emulate and wish that we have. Like, can we all agree that Eddard Stark from Game of Thrones is the perfect embodiment of an honorable father, warrior, and the type of father that you would like to have, holding his children accountable. If you're going to sentence someone to death, you're the man that swings the axe, that kind of thing. And he died way too early. Can we all just agree on that?
Yeah, I can agree on that.
Yeah.
I can also agree that George R. R. Martin needs to get off his fat ass and write some books, but hey, that's okay.
Well, we'll have our complaint center next week when we finally do our Game of Thrones show. But hey, so we wanted to take a time and to tell you who we think is our pick for the best father in the nerd universe and the worst father. I'm just going to go ahead and say that Darth Vader probably is the worst father, although he did kind of redeem himself, in the end. He did kill the Emperor and, help save his son and all that. But he still is a pretty bad guy and, almost killed Luke at the beginning of Episode 4. So, pretty bad father. But here's my pick for the best father, and here's why. And you can laugh at me, but I don't think I'm wrong on this. I think Henry Jones is the best father. Did he tell his son to go to bed early, to eat his vegetables? No. He taught his son self-reliance and Greek. And Indiana Jones learned how to be independent. Did he get the love that you should probably get from a father? Not necessarily. Did his father kind of play around and, they both slept with the same woman? Sure. But when it comes to father-son adventures, most of us just go fishing or hunting with our dads or to a ball game. How many of us get to go search for the Holy Grail with your dad? Now that is the all-time best father-son adventure. And that's why Henry Jones gets the Best Father Award from me in the nerd universe. How about you, Brendan?
Best dad, huh? Well, that's best dad ever, huh? Well, I'll give you my worst. In fiction, it's kind of hard to just bring it down to sci-fi, but my worst ever in fiction, I'm gonna go with Jack from The Shining. He's my worst.
Yeah.
Here's Johnny. When your dad turns into an alcoholic psycho that tries to murder your mom with an axe, he sucks.
Yeah, you've hit a low point.
That's what we call hitting bottom, folks. Now, as far as the best, I'm gonna stick with Star Wars, but I'm gonna go with an adopted dad. I'm gonna go with Bail Organa, because he took in Leia. He didn't have to, raised her. Yeah, unfortunately, he started a rebellion, got his planet blown up. But let's face it, Leia could have been sitting in the desert with Luke, moisture farming. Instead, she was living in the lap of luxury on Alderaan. So that worked out pretty well for her.
Yeah, they definitely did.
So I'm gonna go Bail Organa.
And you know what?
Jimmy Smith needs love.
Exactly. Jimmy Smits played a really great Bail Organa. He did, and he looked like he'd be a pretty fun dad to hang around. And he was debonair.
He was.
and with his little cape and his outfit and everything, Jimmy Smits and anything he does has a very magnetic presence. He is tall and he's been around for a long time. In anything that he's really done. While we don't really talk about political dramas and all that, The West Wing is always going to be one of my favorite shows because I love Aaron Sorkin, and he the new president that gets elected at the end of season 7. He was great, and his character is definitely the type of guy that I would vote for. Of course, it's always better in fiction, but. Yeah. But if you're going to have a guy that kind of starts a rebellion, takes in, Leia and runs a planet and all that, he did a great job. He, again, one of the bright spots of the
prequel trilogy. Yeah, and seriously, if it wasn't for him, Leia doesn't become the firebrand that she is, and she doesn't lead the rebellion, and
right.
Bail Organa is my dad of the year. He'll be my pick this year. Might have a
nice.
different pick next year, but this year I'm going Bail Organa.
This year, we salute you, Bail Organa. So, all right. We are going to take a quick break, but we will be back with E3 coverage. So if you got to run to the restroom, grab some water, grab another beer. We will be back after this station break.
What's the difference between success and failure in business? It's the moment you decide to go pro. And it's also when you finally decide that you don't have to shop with amateurs anymore. When it comes to your printing, web and graphic design, and advertising, the Business Pro Shop will get the job done right, because that's what it means to go pro. Shouldn't you let professionals work for you? Call 888-901-4665 to go pro today, and start with 500 free business cards on your first order.
All right, if you're looking for advertising opportunities with That Nerd Show and you'd like to promote your product, your business, whatever you got going on to a wide audience, lots of listeners all over the world, and also a lot here locally in Dallas, Texas, where we broadcast from, you should definitely call 888-901-4665, the parent company of That Nerd Show, to get some information on advertising opportunities. You can advertise to our audience. We get 1 million hits a month off of our website and 50,000 to 100,000 unique visitors every month. But you can advertise for as low as $25 a month. You should call and find out how you can get a radio ad on our show every week. So if you'd like to advertise with That Nerd Show, we'll definitely talk to you, and we have lots of opportunities available. So like I said, you can call 888-901-4665, talk to customer care, and they will get you completely set up for advertising not only on the radio show or podcast, but on our website as well.
Just because you have a business doesn't mean you have the roadmap to success. In fact, 80% of businesses will fail. But there is one important thing you can do to help ensure that your business is not one of them. Go Pro. For all of your printing needs, your web and graphic design, and your advertising, there is only one place to shop, the Business Pro Shop. Go Pro with your business today and start with 500 free business cards with your first order. Call 888-901-4665 to Go Pro.
All right, we are back for the second half of our show this week, and we're going to get right into E3 coverage. Very exciting this year with some of the stuff that's coming out, and I think pretty much the big game that we're going to be talking about this year is Star Wars Battlefront. What do you think, Brendan?
Yeah, I mean, it was very impressive. I'm very conflicted about Battlefront, though. It looks amazing.
Really?
Well, here's what I'm conflicted about. It looks great. But I'm not an online shooter player. I'm properly terrible at them. I get my ass handed to me on a platter, and I suck. There's no two ways about it. I'm not good. So basically those games involve me running 5 feet, getting killed, respawning, running another 5 feet, getting killed. You notice pattern forming here. It's not very fun for me. So do I want to drop $60 on a game where that's the majority of the content? Yes, there are some single-player missions or couch co-op missions that you can do. But to be honest, I don't know if there's enough of them for me to justify spending $60 on the game. Now, if you are a fan of online shooters and you love Star Wars, then this is an absolute must-buy for you. And I still may get it. I just haven't decided. But I may just wait until like March or April or when I can get like a used copy for $30. Just because I don't know.
Well, you know, and that's always going to be the big thing about games this day and age. Is it worth $60?
Yeah.
I love the fact that we have things like GameFly, and you know you can rent games with Redbox and all of that to try it out for a little bit. GameFly
Right.
to me is probably the best way to go about it. You know, hold on to it for a week or two, because you know if you spend $15 and play a couple of games throughout the month and see if it's worth it. To justify the cost, I think it comes down to the amount of time that you put in with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, what I'll probably do is since I've got the second job at GameStop, what I'll probably do is we can rent, bring home titles to try them out for 3 days. So what I'll do is after the first couple runs, when people buy all their, because it's not going to stay in the store for the first 2 weeks. But once we actually have a steady stream of copies, then I'll probably snag it and bring it home for a couple of days and try it out.
Well, I am excited for it. This is the type of game that would make me want to bump up to a PS4. Everybody knows, if you've listened to our show, I'm not the major gamer, although I have gotten more back into gaming and really built up my setup. But, I don't do enough gaming to justify $400 on a PlayStation 4. Again, we're realistic about how you invest in things, especially, video games. And to spend so much money on a console, then new games and all that, you have to pick and choose what you're doing. If you justify it to where, you basically spend, of $60 a month and get a new game every month, it probably isn't bad. I mean, that kind of thing.
Well,
And
I think for a lot of folks who aren't as avid a gamer as my wife and I are, that waiting till the second or third year, especially the third year of the new console generation, is
Right.
probably a good idea, because the big knock on this console generation is there hasn't been a lot of games, especially a lot of quality ones. And the reason
Right.
for that is because it takes a couple of years for the developers to learn how to properly write code for the new systems. So
Right.
we're starting, that's why this E3 was such a big year, is because we're starting to get into that sweet spot now. We're moving into the third year of this console's life cycle. So the Xbox One and the PS4 are starting to get a lot more titles. And I think next year, 2016 and 2017 are really going to be amazing years for gamers.
Well, the other thing, too, is are you going to make games that are available for the older systems? Some companies, like the sports games, you're going to be able to get them on both. And we were talking about this not too long ago about, games that are built pretty much for certain game systems. Like I do love first-person shooter games because there are days that I just need to kind of digress, sit around and, on my big gaming TV and all that and just shoot things. So I'm a big fan of the Call of Duty games. I'm not saying I'm great at it. I do take my time. I'm strategic, and I will replay missions and all that. But I think it comes from my love of the first Doom. Remember when we all played Doom for the first time in high school?
And the new one was
I'm talking,
awesome, by the way.
Yeah, I'm talking to Brendan. I remember that year just like two great things happened in 1995. You had Windows 95 come out, which was an awesome operating system, and Doom. So, but anyway, and then of course the next year, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, still one of the greatest games ever on the PC. Mm-hmm. But there are, when it comes to like graphics and stuff, especially like sports games, we were sitting around playing NHL 15 about a month ago. Brendan and I finally played each other with our two favorite teams, and I have it on PS3. It's built. The graphics are great for PS3. It hasn't really crossed over to where you kind of need that system yet. MLB 15 is one of those that I think is probably a lot better and more awesome on the PS4. So you kind of get that, crossover of what you're really looking for. Some of these games, I understand why they're not going to make them for the older generation console system.
They just can't handle the old systems. Just can't handle. I mean, look what's going on with Mortal Kombat X. Mortal Kombat 10 came out 2-3 months ago now, and it was supposed to already be out for the prior consoles, but they're having a hard time making it work. It got pushed back till the end of summer. So
and I think that's it's great if it's so fantastic on a new console system, but again, that justifies the cost of how much it is. Because I'm personally not going to spend $400 on a console system just to play one game. No matter how much I love Mortal Kombat, I will wait.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to Star Wars Battlefront, I know it pretty much won the most anticipated game, won the big award and stuff like that, and it does look, visually stunning. Like you're literally right in there playing the missions and stuff like that. And the last time that I actually played any game, there was what was it, Super Nintendo, that they had a Star Wars game where you could play like the Hoth missions or whatever. Was that the first time they did it?
That was Super. I guess it was Super. Whatever Shadows of the Empire was on. I guess it was N64.
Oh, N64 then.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those earlier ones. Okay. Well, being able to do the Hoth missions and first-person shooter plus fly speeders and all of that, fantastic. Lightsaber duels. I do think it's going to be a great game. But again, that's the big question. It doesn't warrant the $60 right off the bat.
For somebody, honestly, for somebody who is a Star Wars fan and a fan of online shooters, yes, it absolutely does. If you're a gamer, if you're an online shooter fan, and you're a Star Wars fan, or even if you're just one or the other, it still might be worth it. Definitely if you're an online shooter fan. I don't think you need to be a Star Wars fan to like this game, but you need to be a first-person or a shooter fan. I think some Star Wars fans, like me, might be able to get over the fact that we just suck at the genre just because it is Star Wars and the multi-layered approach to the battle. I mean, the Hoth video was phenomenal. Whether you're a ground trooper, for the Rebels, or a stormtrooper for the Imperials, whether you're an ATST or an AT-AT, or maybe you're in a snow speeder or X-Wing or a TIE fighter. There was just a lot going on. Calling in the orbital strikes from the Star Destroyers. It really it was very impressive, the sense of scale and the sense of layers that they had in the game.
Right.
So that was the big impressive thing for me.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but with it being online, it's pretty much like going to be Titanfall for the Xbox. You're going to have a lot of players all over, the web playing. You're not going to be able to get to do it by yourself, right?
Well, no, there are, like I said, there is single-player content. They have single-player missions that can be done either a single-player, couch co-op, or online co-op. And even in the online battles, it's not going to be all player characters. They're going to be NPC bots on both sides. So there's a lot of different things going on.
Okay.
So,
and that would be part of my biggest argument in dealing with that particular game and everything. It's like I got Titanfall for Xbox 360 because I have one and played it a little bit, and I love the idea and all that. But I have to put it on mute because I'm tired of listening to people play around, and it's just after a while I'm just kind of like, screw this. Now I'm just gonna go back to playing a Call of Duty game or something. It doesn't keep me interested long enough. So thank God I didn't spend a lot of money on it. Actually, I'd rather go back and play a Halo game to do this. So
well, then you're in luck because Halo 5's coming out.
Yes. However, another argument about not putting it on the older console systems. The only reason I even have an Xbox 360 is I found one for $100 at a pawn shop and, got Halo games pretty cheap one weekend. They're great, but I'm not buying an Xbox One just to play Halo 5.
Well, you can buy a Xbox One Halo Master Chief Collection bundle so you can get the Xbox One, all 4 Halo games for $350. So
well, that might be worth it. I don't know.
So anyway, but there are other games. There are other games in E3 other than Battlefront. I know it's hard to believe, but there were some very good ones. The big games for me that just absolutely blew me away. No Man's Sky continues to impress. The scope of that galaxy is going to be immense. For those who aren't familiar with it, the entire universe is procedurally generated. Now, that's not random. Procedurally is basically they've written a bunch of algorithms to govern the universe, and so if a planet gets generated, then algorithms say, okay, how far from the sun is it? Okay, it's in this range, so it should be a desert planet, or it's in this range, so it'll be a temperate planet like Earth, or it's in this range, so it'll be an ice planet like Hoth. So there's a lot of different things going on there, and then that all governs what spawns on the world itself, the flora, the fauna, the water, the climates, and they each have their own day-night cycle as they revolve around their sun. So there's a lot going on there, and I've got a great video explaining the procedural generation from GameSpot, and they interview Sean Murray, who's the head of Hello Games, who's developing this out of England, and it's a fantastic game. Just the exploration in it is going to be amazing. Another one that caught me completely by surprise. I hadn't heard any of this about this game, and shame on me for it. But Horizon for the PS4. Horizon Zero Dawn, it's kind of like a mixture of post-apocalyptic with prehistoric. And I know that's weird, but bear with me. Basically, it's 1,000 years after the fall of our civilization, so with skyscrapers touching the stars and all that nonsense and how they put it poetically. But the land has reclaimed all the cities to a much greater scale than you see on either The Last of Us or on the Revolution TV show. And they know that what they call the first ones, who are the humans who built these civilizations, they know they were wiped out about 1,000 years ago. And they know the machines have been around since, and these are machines that kind of look like animals. They look like dinosaurs almost. And so these tribal humans are fighting off these machines and trying to discover what happened to cause the fall of society. So the graphics on it are unbelievable. So many times you see a presentation about a game in develop, and it says, this footage was captured in-engine. And what really that means is we're showing you the best possible footage because we want you to be interested. Because if you used in-engine footage on your PC, you would probably melt it. because it shows the very best of whatever engine, and a lot of them now it'll be the new Unreal Engine or Crytek engine or whichever engine they're using. But it's the very best, most powerful settings on that engine. And they're using a computer that NASA would be jealous of to render it. So what was so impressive about the Horizon trailer was at the beginning of it, it says this trailer was captured directly off of a PS4 from live gameplay. And that made me happy because it was gorgeous. So, yeah, definitely check out Horizon Zero Dawn. It looks just absolutely fantastic. I'll put up a video about it, too, on the Facebook. Another huge story was the remake of Final Fantasy VII that's going to be coming. And Final Fantasy VII is the game from the PlayStation 1. It's the game that put PlayStation on the map, quite literally. So the fact that this has been a long time coming, because when the PlayStation 3 came out, they did a tech demo right before it came out showing a remade Final Fantasy VII to show off how awesome the PlayStation 3 is. Well, everybody's all like, oh my God, we're getting a Final Fantasy VII remake. Well, it hasn't happened, obviously, for the last 8 years. If people are like, where is this remake, where is this remake, where is this remake? Well, finally, we're getting this remake. Hopefully, we'll get it by 2017, which would be the 25th anniversary of the original game. So that would, or the 20th anniversary of the original game, which would be awesome. I'm sorry, I cut you off. What were you going to ask me, Marcus?
Well, I was going to say, talking about games into the future and everything, I mean, I like games that are kind of, out there and futuristic and all that. That's why Destiny was such a popular game last year. I'm still going through it and still love it. I have to switch off between first-person shooter stuff, but, Destiny, in my mind, was probably the best out of the excuse me, everyone, probably the best out of kind of the first-person shooter and futuristic world, just because, there are certain levels where you have to get on a ship and go somewhere else and stock up and everything. But one of the things that I'm looking forward to this year, I've never been a Fallout fan, per se, but Fallout 4 looks awesome. Now, I'm afraid, that they're trying to take a little bit from like Call of Duty Advanced Warfare or Destiny and places like that where you're dealing with this kind of dystopian world and all that, and you're roaming and you're not just killing bad guys and all that.
Because that's a Fallout staple from years and years and years. I mean, people have ripped that off from Fallout, not the other way around.
Well, right, and that's what I was going to get at. However, after looking at the trailer and hearing more about this game and stuff, you basically emerge from the Vault 111 200 years later and everything, and you're kind of roaming around in the way you can make your avatars and stuff. From a first-person shooter standpoint, absolutely looks very, very cool. And this is one that I hope will be available on both systems. So once it does come out, I'll be able to play it a little bit. The other Fallout games haven't always done it for me. I've gotten bored too easily. This one doesn't look like that I would get bored that easily with it, just because of the setting. So that'll be one of my November games.
It's going to be set in Boston, and they've turned the USS Constitution into an airship. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, that one we're going to have to kind of get together and do. Yeah.
And for those who've played Fallout 4, you know that the currency in Fallout are bottle caps. However many bottle caps you have, well, a very enterprising young man who has been saving bottle caps since Fallout 3 came out sent Bethesda roughly 2,500 bottle caps and said, "Will this pay for my Fallout 4?" No word yet on whether or not Bethesda will give him a free game, but he will. Supposedly, he should. If I'm Bethesda, I've got to give the kid credit for sending me 2,500 bottle caps. I've got to give him the game. So hopefully,
unfortunately,
if
they do that, now they're going to get inundated with lots of bottle caps.
I'm sure they'll come out and say. I'm sure they'll probably do it they'll probably do two things. They probably won't announce that they've done it until after the game's released. And number one, right. And number two, they'll come out with, and don't try sending us bottle caps because he thought of it first. You should have thought of it sooner. It's one and done. He was the smart one. Don't try to get a free game on his coattails. So
right.
So hopefully I'm betting that Bethesda will give him the copy, but I'm guessing that they just will say, yeah, you're going to get a copy. Just don't announce it until after Fallout 4 launches. That'll be my guess. But kudos to this kid because that was just awesome. So, but so let's see what other good, amazing games.
Metal Gear 5.
Yeah, Metal Gear 5. Yes, Metal Gear 5. Okay. Look,
I already hear the tone in your voice like, oh, Metal Gear 5.
I'm sure Metal Gear 5 will be phenomenal for those who are Metal Gear fans, and anybody who's not, I say give it a shot because the gameplay of it has always been superb. The actual gameplay. My whole problem with the Metal Gear series is the writing of Hideo Kojima. Hideo Kojima, he knows and loves that video games are a new and amazing way to tell stories to a fan base. He just doesn't have much aspect for the game aspect of it. And on top of that, so I mean, it's Metal Gear cutscene is what I like to call it, and I like good story-driven content, I do, but you got to let me play the game every once in a while. Number one, and number two, I'm sorry, but his writing is batshit crazy. I mean, it goes stupid on you in a hurry, and I honestly haven't played a Metal Gear game since the end of Metal Gear Solid 2. I loved Metal Gear Solid. I played the crap out of that game on the PS1. I loved Metal Gear Solid 2 up until the last 5 minutes. And when
is it batshit crazy like Saints Row batshit crazy?
No, well, see, but Saint Row batshit crazy works because the game comes out and says, hey, it's batshit crazy. So it works within that environment. You can suspend disbelief and you know that it's total and utter bullshit because it's a bullshit world.
Right.
No, what the problem with Metal Gear Solid 2 is throughout this you're doing this whole like very grounded story, even though some of the things you could do were amazing and not very grounded.
Right.
But it almost felt Clancy-esque throughout the whole thing, and then all of a sudden, like at the last minute, it takes a weird turn through Twilight Zone, supernatural, Ghost in the Shell, sci-fi Akira thing. And I'm like, wait a minute. It was like an espionage game 2 minutes ago. What the fuck happened? And I was so pissed off by the ending of that game, I just could not bring myself to buy 3 or 4. And after seeing Yahtzee Croshaw, by the way, if you've never seen Yahtzee's video game reviews, head over to the Escapist magazine or just Google Zero Punctuation. I highly recommend watching his Metal Gear Solid 4 review, which is what led me to not buy it, and also his review of Painkiller, because it's just friggin' hilarious and you'll laugh your ass off and it's worth it. It couldn't be any better if it had tits and was on fire, and you'll understand what I mean after you watch the Painkiller review. But so like that's my whole problem with the Metal Gear Solid series. I just can't get into the stories anymore, and I have so many games on my list. It just doesn't make the cut. For those of you that love the series, I'm not going to try debating it with you. I'm not going to try arguing with you. You love it. You're more than welcome to love it. That's your opinion. That, do what you love, play what you love. I'm never going to begrudge you that. I'm just not playing it. But I wish you all the best and very much fun doing so. So yeah, that's me on Metal Gear.
It's not my favorite. I don't mind the writing per se. Like I said, I mean, when I do first-person shooter or anything shooter games, it's just I want to kill things. I mean, it's great if you have a story like Advanced Warfare. I didn't think it was particularly a great story, and it was cool to have. Now I just forgot his name, but it was cool to have what's his face from House of Cards in it, Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
In the series. But really, first-person shooters are all about I want to kill things and blah and stuff like that. One of the things that I kind of laughed at was the Phantom Pain, and I'm like, haven't we had enough ridiculous names with Phantom in it?
With Phantom, yeah.
But I thought, well, you know what? Phantom Pain is definitely not as ridiculous as Phantom Menace.
Well, and but also the main character is the most ridiculous porn name in all of video games. The main character's name is Solid Snake.
Hey, sometimes you just want a little ridiculousness and just to kill things. That's all it is. Hey, like the Battlefield Hardline games.
Yeah. I mean, what happened? Was his out of shape brother Flaccid Snake not available? Anyway, all right. And one of the big surprises.
We're terrible.
Moving along from Metal Gear Solid, one of the big surprises was, and it was a big surprise for a couple of reasons. Number one, the first two games were, even though critically acclaimed, they were financially a terrible disaster for Sega. But Shenmue 3 was announced, and it was announced as a Kickstarter because, well, let's face it, Sony wanted to do a Shenmue 3. They just didn't want to have to pay for it because they were afraid it was going to be an unmitigated disaster like the first two. And fanboys don't call in and yell at me that the games were terrible, that they weren't terrible. I'm not saying they were terrible. I'm saying that they did terribly because they didn't make any money. They were phenomenal games. They just didn't make any money. But anyway, so Shenmue 3 has been set up as a Kickstarter, and it broke all types of records. It was the fastest video game ever to $1 million. It hit it in 1 hour and 46 minutes. It was the fastest video game ever to $2 million, which it hit in a little under 9 hours, which was its funding goal. Currently, it is setting at, as we bring up the website right now, $3.5 million with 26 days to go. So if you're a big fan of Shenmue from the Dreamcast days and you've wanted to see how Ryo's story ends, go over to Kickstarter, type in Shenmue 3, and give them some money. $29 will get you a free PS4 or Steam download of the game. So, which the game's going to cost $60 at launch, so that's not too shabby.
No, not really, not at all.
Let's see, what other good stuff came out of...
I want to make this comment about another Dark Souls game.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, Dark Souls 3, or as I like to call it, ridiculously difficult 3.
Wait, why are we making another Dark Souls? Why are there still fans of this?
Because
okay. After last year of Dragon Age, Shadows of Mordor, hell, another Diablo game, why do people still play this? It's not fun. You're just running around dying all the time. You're not really killing anything. Come on.
Well, look, there are gamers out there that are ridiculously good. My entire crew from my GameStop store plays Dark Souls 2, and they're all pretty good at it. But yeah, it's a challenge. It's for gamers that look. It's for serious gamers that don't have two jobs and a podcast like we do. Yeah, I work at GameStop 6 hours a week. I work for another company 40 to 50 hours a week. Marcus owns a couple of companies. We both do this podcast. I have a wife and 2 dogs. He's got 3 dogs. We lead busy lives, folks. So, we don't get to spend as much. Our gaming comes in smaller snippets. If I get, I've owned Dragon Age Inquisition for, 5-6 months now, and I think I'm 25 hours into the game because I just don't have enough time to play.
Right.
So, and I have so many games that I want to play, I kind of go at one for a little bit and then switch to another. So I put Dragon Age on the back burner because I'm playing The Witcher right now. So,
right.
You don't have the time to invest in those games, but there are gamers out there who, to us mere mortals, regular games are too easy. For us, they're extremely difficult. But for these guys, they chew through them like they're soft cheese. They just go right through them, nothing to it.
Right.
So there is a big market out there for games that are difficult. So that's why Dark Souls, that's why Bloodborne, that's why Lords of the Fallen have all done very well.
And that's fine. There seems to be an audience for everything, but I have to complain about it because I'm just thinking you're wasting resources on a game that doesn't seem very fun. It's only for what I would consider a small group of people. I mean, can't we come up with something else that I might like? Is that a very selfish thing for me to say? Yes,
no, but
I don't really care.
But they did come out with something that's similar, but something that you might like because it's probably not going to be as ridiculously stupid hard. And that's Ubisoft's For Honor, which puts you in the role of either a knight, a Viking, or a samurai. And
Absolutely.
the combat, and that looks amazing.
And let me,
So,
I got to tell you this, like, here's one of the reasons that we're fans of the Diablo games. It is a straight hack and slash game. When you just need to hack and slash and you don't really care and all that, want to rampage through a cathedral and kill dead things, that's what that's for. And it's great. This one, in the very much, looks like a hack and slash game, but with a little bit more storytelling, and the fact that you get to be a few different things. The gameplay looks amazing. And this is another one where I'm like, for the love of God, please let this be on a PS3. But it probably won't.
No, I'm not. I'm thinking that's going to be a little too difficult. But for those people that like hacks and slash, that like action RPGs, I want to plug a game real quick. It just funded via Kickstarter. I am a backer of it. It's called Umbra. You can go to their site. It's Umbra, UMBRA game.com. You can still give money to them through PayPal. They've currently raised $416,778. It looks to be a fantastic open world Diablo-esque style game. The magic system and the customization look amazing. Really, really pretty game too, with the Crytek engine leading away. To give it a shot, head over to their game. It's going to be in a whole bunch of different languages because of the Kickstarter. So, no matter what language you speak, you'll be able to play it.
You know what I'm thinking, Brendan? I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking here. We're not going to run an ad, so I'm just going to tell you my thoughts here because it's our podcast and we can do what we do. We really should start a Kickstarter project just for the gaming division of that nerd show to invest in a couple more console systems for, some of our bloggers, things like that, and to be able to do these games that we want to do, and to be able to see if we can find more time. Of course, you can't really invest in time because we have to do other things. But we should definitely do that because some of the games that are coming out this year, we're going to have to dedicate some of our time. That means I'm going to have to give up on going on dates with women, which I very much love, for video games.
For those of you out there who don't know, Marcus is a man whore.
Well, thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. I just met a new woman, and she didn't know that yet. Jesus. Oh, well.
She was going to learn now sooner or later anyway.
Well, no. But no, I was just thinking that with all these Kickstarter projects, I'm like, help us have more console systems so we can play these fantastic games and afford them. That would be good. We're only asking for like $800.
But anyway, but yeah, so go check out Umbra game if you like Dragon Age, or I should say Diablo style games. I think you'll really give it really like it. It doesn't take, like, I got it for $15. I got a Steam copy of it, so you can, I think $19 is their minimum one right now, but you still get a Steam copy. So for a game that's going to be $40-50 when it comes out, not a bad deal at all. But back to E3. Let's see. There was another game I wanted to look at. There was a couple, actually. I'll just say this about The Last Guardian. Thank God it's not fucking vaporware anymore. That game was originally shown at E3 in 2009. And it is finally coming out for the PS4 basically about 2 years after they showed it. Team Ico realized this game's never going to be on the PS3 and just scrapped it altogether and restarted over working on the PS4. For those of you who aren't familiar with Team Ico, go play Ico or Shadows of the Colossus. They're both considered to be absolute masterpieces of the PS2. And the team just knows what they're doing. So hopefully we'll start to see more from The Last Guardian soon. Also, let's see, another interesting game that looks really cool. It's called Firewatch. It's got a kind of a stylized, cartoonish style graphics, but I guess you're some type of fire warden in maybe like Yosemite National Park or something like that. But the storytelling looks very interesting. Check out the trailer. Let's see, The Division finally gets a release date coming out next March. Tom Clancy's The Division, which is going to be an online third-person shooter / RPG that's set in a slightly dystopian near future in New York, and the whole city of New York is rendered in the game. So that looks amazing, and really looking forward to that.
When was the last time that we've actually had a Tom Clancy game? It's been a while, right?
Oh no, there's been plenty of them. Splinter Cell Blacklist came out last year. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege comes out in a couple of months. So before the Splinter Cell series came out with maybe one game every other year for the last 7 or 8 years. So yeah, there's been plenty of Tom Clancy games out there. Tom Clancy's Hawks, which was a fighter game on the PS3, came out a few years back. So they're been out there.
I haven't played a Tom Clancy game in a while, so I tend to forget these things. Again, not being the gaming expert on our show, but I'm getting there. Rainbow
Six Siege looks amazing. Basically, it's 4-on-4 combat online. And there's all these different types of environments, and the environments are completely destructible. So if you shoot a guy through a wall, the wall's not going to protect them. You might hit the guy on the other side of the wall. You can blow through a wall. You can secure a door with a portable barricade door. There's a lot of crazy tactical things going on in Rainbow Six Siege. It looks pretty interesting. Once again, I'm terrible at online shooters, but it does look pretty interesting.
Yeah, that one definitely stuck out in my mind a little bit. That one I definitely want to try.
Now, two other games we should talk about. Basically, I haven't got a chance to play it yet, and I'm really glad that they are re-releasing Dishonored on the new consoles. They're going to be remastered for the PS4. So I'm going to give Dishonored a try. But Dishonored 2 is officially announced, and it looks really good. And then finally, one of your favorite game franchises of all time, Doom is back, baby. And it's bringing the best of the new school type stuff, graphics, gameplay, and mixing it with all the old school stuff. There's no more regenerating health. If you want to get health, you better find a med pack like back in the day. So it's the new Doom. Yeah, check out the trailer because, wow, it looks brutal. And that's really all I can say about Doom. It's just there's going to be blood and guts, and chances are you're going to die.
Well, getting back to the nostalgia factor about Doom, because, it's been 20 years since the first one came out and just really captured everything. I mean, it is, in so many ways, the quintessential first-person shooter, just, PC, console systems, everything.
Yeah,
and
it started the genre.
Right. It doesn't... You don't need some, big story or, prologues with characters and all that. You just need to be able to be dropped in somewhere and be able to shoot demons and monsters and all that. And that's it. Okay? I mean, that's what that's for. Being able to play, multiplayer with online and stuff, great. It's great for console. It's great for PC. So, yeah, if you're going to make so many games and storylines like Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty and all that, then why not Doom? Doom is where you should always be able to do stuff. So I'm just throwing it out there, and I'm definitely glad you're bringing it back because it is one of the ones that we're looking forward to this year.
Mm-hmm. And then I'll talk about one more game, then I'm going to get to a couple of my disappointments of E3. The other one that everybody, of course, is looking forward to if you own a Sony is, Uncharted 4, and then, of course, if you have an Xbox, you're looking forward to Halo 5. Both games look absolutely amazing. The graphics are incredible. Nathan Fillion, it's just amazing to actually see him scanned into Halo 5. And him lending his voice, so that's going to be really cool for the geek and all of us to fight alongside Captain Malcolm Reynolds, even if that's not his name in the story. They showed a 5-minute bit of Uncharted gameplay, and the writing, I was a little worried about the writing because Amy Hennig's not there anymore, but the guys who wrote The Last of Us are writing it, and damn, did they squeeze enough funny lines into that first 5 minutes that I saw. So I'm very happy to see that Sully is still a wise ass. They nailed the writing so far, so I'm happy about that. My two big disappointments, however, are you still there, Marcus? What happened?
Oh, my gosh. Skynet hasn't bothered us all throughout the show, and they finally decided to Interfere.
All right. Well, my two disappointments for the show. Number one, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Visceral is cooking up for Star Wars. And with Amy Hennig, the former project lead on Uncharted, now the project lead on the Visceral game, there's a lot of talk that they might be resurrecting Star Wars 1313 from LucasArts. Or at least if they're not doing that story, they're making that type of a game, which would make a lot of sense to hire Amy Hennig, because it was a very 1313 looked like Uncharted with the Star Wars skin. So, it would make sense to bring her in. If it's not 1313, many people think it will be that type of Uncharted-style platforming game set in the Star Wars universe. And as a single-player guy who likes story-driven content, I'm very much looking forward to hearing about it. But EA didn't tell me anything about it. I could have gone with just a tiny teaser, a title, a confirmation of what genre it's in. That's all I needed. That's all I wanted. You let me down, EA. You let me down. The other big disappointment I had from E3 was apparently CD Projekt Red, who's behind the Witcher series. A couple of years ago, they announced a project called Cyberpunk 2077. And the original trailer was just breathtakingly beautiful, and I kind of enjoy a good cyberpunk story, and it almost had a very Blade Runner type look to the trailer. And here we are a couple of years later, and we haven't heard a peep about it, and CD Projekt Red comes out and says, well, we're going to concentrate on doing DLC for the foreseeable future for The Witcher, and we're probably not going to be ready to talk about Cyberpunk 2077 until a year or two from now. A year or two? It's already been 2 years. Look, here's a tip to game designers everywhere. Take a page from Fallout. People have been wanting Fallout 4 for like a decade, okay, or damn near. And they've been yelling at Bethesda, tell us about Fallout 4, tell us about Fallout 4, and all the while Bethesda's like, have you seen the new mod for Skyrim? They haven't said a damn thing about it until they were ready to. And 6 months before they released, they're like, here it is. It's Fallout 4, and it's beautiful, and it's everything you've always wanted, and you'll have it in November. Perfect.
Right.
Talking about this shit 4 years in advance, Team Ico, or 6 years in advance with Shadows of the Colossus. I was convinced that was going to be the next Duke Nukem Forever in development. Talking about a game 2 years in advance, and then 2 years later coming back and saying, oh, we're probably 2 years away from talking about it. Just shut up. Don't cock tease me with these amazing games and then say, we'll get around to it in a couple of years. Do you realize that there were people who weren't even in college yet who will have degrees by the time you release this game? Shut the hell up. There's going to be two Olympiads by the time it comes out.
And in case our fans are wondering when we were going to get to the nerd rant, there you go.
Yeah. They're going to be two Olympiads. Just shut the hell up. If you're not ready to talk about it, don't. Because when you're ready to talk about it, trust me, we're ready to listen. And more importantly, we're ready to play. And if you're not ready to let us play, then shut the hell up. Have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck up. Next.
Well,
all right.
With all the a few disappointments this year that just aren't that exciting and all that. I mean, generally, it does look like a fantastic year for video games. And, the one that's coming out on Tuesday that everybody's been waiting for, the new, Arkham Knights, the new Batman game, which absolutely looks amazing. But it's another one of those that it's not going to be put on an older console system for a little while. But from everything that we've seen and been told and other reviews and everything, it looks fantastic and a great way to kind of end that trilogy. Yeah. But here's one thing that I do want to comment on, and this is for a theme show later on down the road that we have toyed around with, but we will do it now that we have a new show on Sundays. But I figure this is a good time to bring up this question, and we'll give you plenty of time to really think about it before we have a full show on it. When is the right time to be done with a franchise? Okay. I love the Call of Duty games. I do. All right. I'm a first-person shooter fan. You've had, good storylines, and I've gone back to play, older games and stuff like that. But Black Ops 3, really, did we need it? I mean, isn't there something else that we can do? I know that we're getting more into the future and all that, so that's why we have Advanced Warfare and stuff like that, which to me was a lot more fun than trying to play Titanfall. But when is it enough? Where it just becomes boring. So, and it's the same thing with Assassin's Creed. I don't think you're ever going to top a game like you did with Assassin's Creed 2. You've had some fun ones, but you play them, it's one and done, and you're like, okay, well, whatever. I'm never going to go back to it. So I have a suggestion, and this is basically for Call of Duty. I want a game called Call of Duty Total Warfare, okay? And what I want is so much stuff. You can even make it 2 or 3 discs in this game with different missions. You can fight in the jungle. You can fight in the desert. You can fight in the future. You can have a storyline of, generations of soldiers or whatever. In fact, that's what you really ought to do. You should have a family with generations of military men that have fought in different wars and different eras and all the way into the future with Advanced Warfare. If you want everything into like a total just fun game and great, just do one. Quit trying to come out with stuff. I don't need a Black Ops 3. I've kind of played the first 2, and I'm like, yeah, they're great. I don't really know how you're going to top it with 3. So
you're always going to have game series, though, because there's always going to be people to come back for the next one. I
know.
And, I mean, look at Madden. Do you need a new Madden every year? No, just update the rosters. But still, I mean, and honestly, I don't buy a new Madden every year because it's stupid. There's not enough change from year to year. Every once in a while, there's like last year was the first year in almost 7-8 years that I considered buying a Madden, and it was because they really revamped the defensive side of the ball and made it different for the first time in a long time. And I always loved the defense. I love a good defensive team, so I always really enjoy playing the defense, and the fact that they actually gave me options to play that was like, okay, now I've got a reason to buy the game. But from year to year, it's just like, okay, the graphics improved incrementally.
Well, I didn't buy a new NHL game until this year for a while.
Yeah.
And it was worth it. It was great. But, I'm good unless I'm going to buy it for a new console system or whatever, because there really isn't going to be that much change. If you can update the rosters and all that, then, you're good. That's all we're saying. And this is something that we will continue discussing with other game shows or game-themed shows. But something to consider as we keep rolling out new games and everything. Or, I'm not saying you should wait 10 years to space out because I'm glad Fallout 4 is coming, but, you don't need a new one every year. And take the time to really build something great. And I have no doubt that Fallout 4 is going to be fantastic. So, all right, we're going to start winding down this show. We've got a few things to talk about. I do want to mention that the cosplayer of the week was Alex Bean, who is part of the Rebel Alliance group, which is an offshoot of the 501st Star Garrison here in Dallas. We got a really great interview with him for our documentary Jedis from Dallas at AllCon. But if you like having your own customized lightsaber, dressing up as a Jedi Knight, and or an X-wing pilot and all that, then you should definitely check out the Rebel Alliance fan group here in Dallas. So, and their costumes are fantastic. I love the Jedi. I love the different Jedi Knight outfits, and I totally want one. So that is our cosplayer of the week. Brendan, do you have a beer suggestion for people, for our fellow nerds out there?
Yeah, I do. We're going to go with a local Dallas one this week. We'll branch out throughout the country as this segment goes, but going to stick close to home and go with a Lakewood Brewing's, one of their legendary series. It's their Belgian triple called the Saint, and I'm probably going to destroy this, but Dymphna. It's DymphnA, and Saint Dymphna was an Irish saint in Belgium, and the beer actually is so good, and just because it's so steeped in all this tradition and lore of the name, they were actually featured on TV in Brussels. So little Texas Brewing Company got on the news in Brussels, Belgium. So if you live in the Texas area and you got a chance to go ahead and grab one, do so. Enjoy it. Belgian triples are a great spring and summertime beer. Have wonderful flavor. So just go ahead and snag one of those. If you don't live in the Dallas area and you can't get your hands on those, there's some great triples out there. Omegong Brewery out of New York. They're pretty much nationwide at this point, and they do great Belgian beer. They have a fantastic triple, so just look up Omegong, get their triple or one of their many other great beers. But that's this week's beer.
All right. Lakewood makes a lot of great stuff, and that Belgian, wow, and good time of the year to do that. Okay, so what you should be streaming this week. There's a lot of great things out there that you should definitely check out and binge watch. We are in the summer, so, mainstream programming, we don't have new shows, and this is the best time of the year to Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon Prime it for a weekend. And it's always great to find surprises. However, one little small complaint, Netflix. Did you really have to change the layout? It doesn't look any fancier. It just looks more confusing. Seriously? Really?
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
It's not user-friendly at all. I saw it today.
No,
I was not impressed.
No. I mean, thank God my Chromecast still works to where I can put it on my big screen TV, and that's all I really care about. But I kind of like the old format, and I think most people do. So you're starting to get a little Microsoft on people where you just want to update the operating system just to make more money and try to be more like other people. You don't need to do that. You were good to begin with. And you know what?
Yeah.
We have the ability to binge watch stuff, and you've got great original programming. Stick with it. Stick with what works. Okay?
Absolutely.
I'm just saying. Yeah. So yes, Netflix, we're calling you out as nerds this week. But here is a couple of picks, just things that I kind of rediscovered that I hadn't seen in a while as I was Netflixing. Been catching up on series and stuff. Sense8, new sci-fi series on Netflix. It is actually very good. It does take a little time to kind of get into it, but great little concept by the Wachowski siblings. And definitely worth binge watching for everybody. So can't wait to see if they actually get a season 2 and what happens to these 8 people and stuff. I'm also glad to see what's his face who played the Indian guy from Lost be able to come back into something that's good and all that. And Daryl Hannah, I hadn't really seen her since Kill Bill 2 in anything, and she was kind of good in the beginning of this series, so very surprising. But yes, definitely worth binge watching. Space Cowboys with Clint Eastwood and Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah, James Gardner and Donald Sutherland. It's just a fun movie about four old farts who are feisty and rebellious and no more than the young farts who go up into space. And Clint Eastwood and Tommy Lee Jones are just fantastic with one another in that movie. That dropped on Netflix not too long ago, and I saw that. I was like, God, I haven't seen that in 10 years. I got to watch it. And here's the thing. Today is Father's Day. If you're looking for something to watch after new shows have come out and all that, then I would definitely pop that in with your dad, because that's a good father-son movie. It really is. And, of course, my final little pick is High Fidelity is on Netflix. And it's one of the best John Cusack movies ever. And I still don't know how to make the perfect mixtape. But if you're a music snob and really like music and all that, then definitely check it out. So, all right, Brandon, real quick.
I got two quick picks.
Okay.
Picks. Just because we were doing Rebels today, talking about that, go back and watch a little bit of the Clone Wars. The entire 6-season run is on Netflix. Also, I highly recommend seasons 3, 4, and 5. And then finally, as far as another sci-fi pick, Sci-Fi, their mini series Ascension is on there. It's really good. Give it a shot.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that there's not going to be a series with it, but.
But at least you get a full story, and they actually give you an ending. So,
right, and that's very true. Very, very well done. And who doesn't like Tricia Helfer? She still looks good in any dress. I like the red one better.
Right.
But, all right, so some new things to check out. HBO fans, True Detective Season 2 will be starting here in about an hour. And, of course, the new show with The Rock called Ballers. And make all the jokes you want with that one. He's still The Rock, and he's still cool. We will be back next week with our Game of Thrones Roundup, and we're going to be talking about our theories about what's going to happen and complaining about George R.R. Martin to get off his fat ass and finish books. Because he just needs
to before he dies. And let's face
exactly.
it, he could have a heart attack at any time.
Yeah, pretty much. So, all right, everybody, we're going to be out of here. Stay nerdy, and we're going to end on this. Just because we can. All right. All right, everybody. Have a great week. Stay nerdy.
Bye-bye.